Hi, welcome to the video. A couple of months ago, I did a couple of videos actually, on the first one on my 10 favorite male singers in rock and popular music. And I did a follow-up video, which was kind of the best of the rest because I kind of missed some of the ones that other people, I suspect, considered to be would be in their top 10. Anyway, I picked my top 10, and I promised in those videos that I was going to get around to doing the female version of that. And I haven't got around to it until now, until today, because in the last few days I've seen a video by Steve Westman, who has done his top 10 female vocalist, but with an audiophile angle. So Steve is an audiophile, and he kind of picked the best sounding recordings. Now I'm going to do a little bit about that, but not so much really, because I'm just taking this opportunity to kind of name my favorite female singers. So I'm going to do my top 10, or actually I'm going to do a top 11 because there's an elephant in the room that needs to be discussed, I think. And I'm also going to throw in a few extras that are very notable, accomplished singers in the popular and pop rock music genres. So, but first, I just want to say something about how I've come to these choices. So I've got some criteria for what represents a good singer, and this could go for male and female, but doesn't really matter. So the first one is that I like singers who've got a distinctive voice that's kind of mature, it's lived in, it has a gravitas to it. So there's some life experience kind of somewhere in the vocals. You can hear it somewhere. I like obviously someone with a good range. So I don't like belters, and I don't people who only whisper. I like people who can mix it up. The ability to convey emotion. So you kind of forget um, who's singing, and you can you can kind of feel that emotion. You begin to feel it yourself. And people talk about some music and bring some people to tears and so on and so forth. So that's kind of what I'm talking about here. So how can someone really convey emotion? Do they have songwriting ability? Now it's hard to separate songwriting and arranging and the production of high quality albums from the technical ability of a singer. So they bleed into each other, these kind of characteristics. So there are going to be some people who you might think, well, that's not the greatest singer, but that's a great album, or vice versa. So we'll see. You'll see what you think about it. I like somebody who's a strong character, somebody who is, I talked about having a lived-in voice, a maturity, a gravitas, but someone who's kind of got that strength of character that comes through in their performance as well, and can sing it in large and small spaces. So I kind of like to imagine my singers to be able to carry it off in an arena or a stadium, but also would be equally or even more compelling in a small concert space as well. So those are some of the criteria. We'll see how we get on here anyway. So let me just talk about my number 10. So I'll come on to number 11 and the others later. So I'm going to go run down 10 to 1 in an approximate order. So it's hard to put these in order, really, to be honest, but I'm going to try to do that this time. So the first person on my list is number 10. It is Suzanne Vega, and this is her second album, Solitude Standing. She's um, kind of waif looking. She's not necessarily, if you'll forgive me, a classic beauty. She has this kind of that kind of fragility about her, but there's something in her voice that is really quite strong, and she's a tremendous songwriter as well. She's known for Marlena on the Wall from the first album, and she's not afraid to sing a cappella, but on this album, she mixes that up with some band arrangements as well. And the famous ones, the title track is excellent, Solitude Standing, but also her one of her famous tracks, possibly most famous track, Luca, absolutely tremendous. Um, yeah, Tom's Diner's on here as well. It opens and closes the album. Yeah, so anyway, Suzanne Vega, as I say, kind of a persona that looks kind of suggests a certain fragility, but she's got something really going on there. Number 9 is Tori Amos, and this is one of her later albums. Little Earthquakes was the debut, and that's the one to start with. I promised myself I was going to buy that on vinyl, but I haven't got around to doing that because it was released on Record Store Day this year, I think. This is from 2009, so best part of 15 years old. Tori Amos, um, accused of being a little bit of a Kate Bush copyist. I think that's rather unfair. I think her arrangements are typically, particularly on the early albums, are a lot more bare, and it's almost like she's not afraid to be very, very personal, and some of it's kind of harrowing. I mean, there's a track on the first album called "Me and a Gun," where it's just her voice singing very, very slowly. Um, but the lyrics are frankly kind of shocking, really. But she's got that very broad range, very, very good songwriter. I saw her once in Wolverhampton, where she kind of straddles the piano stool, half facing the audience, and I was a little bit disappointed because I was hoping that there'd be a little bit more of a varied sound palette. But her albums have got more of a mixture and with the musical accompaniment than she did on that particular live occasion. But anyway, Tori Amos, heartily recommend her. So she's number 9. Number 8, another one who's can cover the intimate as well, and this is from the 70s. This is Janice Ian, and this is Between the Lines. This has her big hit at 17, but also I think, as I said on an earlier video, from I think this is 1973. Is it 1970? 1975? Excuse me. Tea and Sympathy was my introduction to her, and that's just a beautiful. So she's got this really, really kind of quiet, soulful, understated voice. So, like I say, there's no belters in this list so far. Let's put that right. So that's number 8. Number 7 is the incredible Tina Turner. Now, I love Tina stuff with Ike Turner back in the 60s. And now, there's all that stuff about, you know, marital, domestic abuse and all that sort of stuff. It kind of tarnishes some of that early music, although it is just some of those great hits like River Deep Mountain High are just incredible. But this is possibly a sweet spot. It's a very varied album. I think it's probably her biggest selling album. It's got the magnificent title track "Private Dancer" with Mark Knopfler at the helm. But her voice is absolutely tremendous, and what an strong character, an absolutely brilliant vocalist. Now, I think this was so successful, she became a bit of a stadium artist afterwards and produced a number of stadium friendly albums, which kind of, I lost my interest really. But this is I've got a special place in my heart for this one. So Tina Turner, undeniably a great vocalist. So that was number 7. Number 6, somewhat obscure, and this is Grey DeLisle, or Grey DeLisle. Now, Grey DeLisle is, let's see if I can get a picture of her, because it's not a very good picture of her there, is it really? See, this is a really interesting package with a vinyl. Oh, yeah, the graceful ghost. There, you get a picture of her there as well. Hopefully you can see that. Anyway, Grey DeLisle, kind of folk, little bit of country, but what's really interesting about her is that she's primary career is that of a voiceover artist. So she voices cartoons in LA, out of Hollywood. So she's as inauthentic as they come. But this album seems to go right in the opposite direction. This album is recorded all analog. That's my understanding, on old instruments. And she plays the auto harp and the music box. and we've got banjo, celeste, pedal harmonium from the circa 1800s, and out of tune piano. And I got it, and she's a great storyteller, great sensitive voice. She can rip it up a little bit here and there, but it's a beautifully sensitive voice. Now, when we talk about audiophile, my introduction to Great Lyle, or Great Lyle, was when I was buying a piece of equipment. I think I was buying these speakers, in fact, from a hi-fi dealer in Lincolnshire, in England. And I went round to his place, and he had a bigger setup than this one, and big, tall speakers. I wish I could remember what speakers they were, but he said this is the test of a brilliant system. God knows how much it cost that system, but he said there's a track on here. I can't remember which one now, where you can hear the dog barking in the yard, and I can just hear it on my system, but on his system was even better. This is beautifully recorded. It sounds absolutely fantastic. It's a lost masterpiece in my judgment. Fantastic, fantastic singer, and a great, great album. So that was number 6. Number 5 is everyone's favorite kind of, well, if you're a middle-aged female graduate, I'm sure you listened to this when you were young and at college. This, of course, is Joni Mitchell and Blue. Now, I've said before that Joni Mitchell's much more than a regular singer-songwriter, because her ability to stretch into other genres and create something that sounds unique, that blend of acoustic singer-songwriter, that morphing into that jazz-influenced those albums from the late 70s, and then more of a rock and 80s sound before returning to a more understated jazzy feel later on. She's got it all, is Joni. Great singer, not in the technical sense, I would say, because I think those early albums, I've said before that I think she's a little bit screechy on those albums. I much prefer her more mature voice, which is deeper. But an absolute giant of the music business, so you can't ignore Joni Mitchell. Oh, goodness, it's my ringtone. Recognize that? Anyway, I'll be back in a moment. Interesting, cool. Anyway, I'm back. So that's Joni Mitchell. Number 5. Number 4. My fourth. It's hard to say this is my fourth favorite singer, because I just love Joni Mitchell. But I think this woman's voice is um, just so good and so strong, and that is Etta James. And this is just a cheap compilation. I've got a few of the albums. I got loads of stuff on CD. She was on Chess back in the day. This is just some cheap reissue. But of course, famously, she did that kind of croony type voice. At last, that opens this particular compilation. But Tell Mama is the great single. But she's just, I Just Want to Make Love to You is brilliant. Something's Got a Hold on Me is brilliant. She's got that raspiness, that blues and soul raspiness to her voice that is just impossible to ignore. She comes on the hi-fi, and you just think, wow, what a voice. I wish I'd seen her back in the day. Such a strong character as well. So anyway, that's Etta James and my number 4. Number 3 is in the folk stroke country genre, another American, and that is Mary Chapin Carpenter. Now, this particular album, Sometimes Just the Sky, is, I think it's a compilation. I'm not sure if it's exclusively a compilation. I'm sure it's got some new tracks on it as well, but it's got some tracks that she's recut from her earlier albums. And let me just tell you that this album sounds great, but this is a woman with a voice that's past its best. So this is real low energy, and I cannot recommend this album. The albums to get, if you get these 2, you'll be absolutely fine. That is Come On, Come On and Stones in the Road. You buy these 2 albums by Mary Chapin Carpenter, and you've got 2 fantastic albums of brilliant singing and brilliant songwriting. All her stuff is about relationships. She she writes or she sings. She's got a beautiful softness to her voice, but like Etta James, occasionally she's got that raspiness that kind of makes you sit up and take notice. Famous tracks. He thinks he'll keep her. Um, the Hard Way. She does a version of The Bug, or does The Bug, which is not so good. Passionate Kisses is tremendous. Sounds like high energy Springsteen track from say The River, but it's just really it's really punchy. It's really great. But yeah, both those albums absolutely fantastic. Mary Chapin Carpenter. Number two is the Queen of Soul. Not the Queen of Soul, isn't it? Because that's somebody else. I'll talk about her in a minute. But this is Nina Simone. Um, Nina Simone, cantankerous character. My other half saw her in the 1980s, and she came on hours late. Was really kind of disdainful of the audience. I think the story was is that the place was only half full, so she was a bit peed off. Um, but what a character! You know, protest singer, great songwriter, great interpreter of other people's songs as well. Um, all of the stuff is worth hearing, even the stuff in the 1970s. And this is the Montreux years, Montreux. Um, the thing what made me buy this one, and it's worth checking out on YouTube, she does a version of Janice Ian's Stars on side B here. It's kind of moving. It's just wonderful the way that she does it. Um, she sings it in a way that her diction's not that clear. Is Nina Simone's? Um, she's kind of got that slurry, that deep voice, but there's something that's just so full of character, and she sings a song and it feels like it's all her version. It's so slow, it's going to fall apart at any minute, but she kind of holds it together, and it's just riveting. So yeah, definitely worth getting. Nina Simone, my number two favorite female singer of all time. So this stretches into the jazz genre, but I'm not going to cover people like Ella and all that sort of stuff because they don't move me the way that Nina Simone does. And my favorite female singer um, in rock and pop music, I'm going to cheat here because there's two of them, and it's Agneta and Frida from ABBA. The greatest pop music ever made, in my judgment. This one of their best albums. Their breakthrough, of course, was the awful Waterloo from the Eurovision Song Contest, but then they released Arrival with Knowing Me, Knowing You, and Dancing Queen on it, where um, in Dancing Queen you've got just supreme joy, really, just that transmission of joy in the singing. And then this is a much more mature album. Again, it's the follow up, and here you've got a certain joy with Thank You for the Music, but then you've got the pathos of I Wonder brackets Departure. Um, and this has got the name of the game, One Man, One Woman. This is kind of where what's great about these two singers and ABBA. And so, they've got they can't take any credit for composition because that's all down to Benny and Bjorn, the guys in ABBA. But as singers, the way that they do it, they can appeal to the 15-year-old young teenager, but also and can the Dancing Queen kind of vibe, right the way through to The Winner Takes It All or The Name of the Game, which is much more mature, kind of like addressing matters of marriages and long-term relationships that are going sour. And they've got something about them where I don't know. I wouldn't want to say which is the very best singer because it's the combination that really makes the difference. There's a bit in Happy New Year from Super Trooper. It's like where they one of them goes up and up and up, and then the other one comes in and it just soars. There's something, and it might just be a word or a line. Um, I think I Wonder is an example of that, and as I say, Happy New Year from Super Trooper is as well. Individually, I haven't got the solo albums. I've got one. I probably haven't. I don't think can't even remember listening to it. But the way that they sing together in this pop group is stellar. It's absolutely incredible. So they go down as my favorites. So that's my top 10. 11 if you include two from the number one. Let's talk about Kate Bush. Kate Bush, every teenage boy's dream, including mine. Um, I think, and of course, Wuthering Heights and The Man with a Child in His Eyes is great. The best album, possibly, Hounds of Love. This is a favorite of mine, Lionheart, because this featured on the time that I saw her in Sunland Empire on the only tour she did apart from the run at Hammersmith Odeon 10 years ago or something like that. This album featured strongly, and she was admired for her beauty and her athleticism as much, I think, as her music. And she became a bit of a national treasure because she didn't tour. She did a number of albums, and then those albums then dried up for a very long time. And she was a woman of kind of mystery, really. So this mysterious persona, almost reclusive, and so that just kind of fueled the legendary status of her. Um, but I think she sings with rather too much artifice. All right, I'm back. The camera overheated. I spent so much time on the phone on that call. It overheated. I was talking about Kate Bush, wasn't I? Kate Bush. Yeah, I think what I was saying is that she's got a good range. There's no doubt about it. But I think there's too much artifice in her music. I think her voice strains in a really unnatural way. But the problem is she's a media's darling. She's the music press's darling because she's got that, that reclusive, legendary, mythical status. Only toured once, really. And I just think that even though I like her and I've got all her albums, she doesn't make my top 10. God, sorry for going on so long about Kate Bush. Other notables, Aretha, a bit too much of a belter for my liking. But there's no denying, absolute giant of the music industry as well. Sang really in a very her own genre. But what Aretha's greatest hits. Have you seen the track listing on that one? My goodness. Spanish Harlem, Chain of Fools, I Say a Little Prayer, Dr. Feelgood, Do Right Woman, Do Right Man, Bridge Over Troubled Water, Respect. And I Never Loved a Man the Way I Love You. What a great, great album. She's great. Maybe she should squeeze into my top 10. Emmylou, not that keen on her early 70s albums and her 80 albums and the bluegrass thing going on. But once she got Daniel Lanois involved and Wrecking Ball, that album was superb. Red Dirt Girl, and it's Bang the Drum Slowly is beautiful. Great, great album. This is a good album too, as well. So yeah, I do like Emmylou. I saw her once. I think she might have been Stumble into Grace. I think might have been the tour that I saw her perform on in Birmingham, and she was absolutely superb. Really good, very elegant and very accomplished artist. Really good. Great singers of our time. Full of character, this one. That's Patti Smith. You all know Patti Smith. It's not about range. It's kind of aggression and that spiky personality of hers. But in her later years, her persona seems very warm. Actually, seems a really nice, warm person. But I mean, what do I know? I've never met her. Haven't even seen her live. One of my regrets. But anyway, Patti Smith, great. More of a current artist, active, and that's Agnes Obel. Think piano, cello, semi-ambient, soft voice, full of atmospherics. She's really, really good as well. And a couple more. Sade's third album, Stronger Than Pride. Um, very, very distinctive. I wouldn't say has a great range, but yeah, really, really good sound. Um, a giant of soul and disco, and that is the incredible Donna Summer. I'm going to talk about Donna Summer on another video because she did some fantastic albums. Great, great singer. And finally, we've all got this one, haven't we? The amazing debut by Tracy Chapman. Excellent voice. Didn't follow it up too strongly, so she burned brightly and then faded. But this album is tremendous, tremendous. Anyway, my top female singers, my top 10, that went almost all the way to number 20 when I throw in those extras. So as I say, that's my favorite female singers. And as I say, I'll send a link to Steve's a video that triggered this particular one, and maybe you'll do the same. But of course, leave a comment as well, and let's have a discussion and see where I got it all wrong. Anyway, in the meantime, I will see you on the next video. Thanks for watching this one. Bye bye for now.